Hi, my name's Angelica Corral, and I'm interviewing Vladimir Bushin about his wonderful trip. He got to meet Robert Cialdini, the godfather of negotiating. And so I'm excited to see what is it that really struck out to you on that meeting that you had with him.
Yeah, thank you, Angelica. I appreciate that. First of all, thank you very much for taking time talking to me about this, and I appreciate that. Dr. Cialdini is actually, I have to correct you a little bit. Dr. Cialdini is godfather of influence, not necessarily negotiation. Our negotiation is actually very close, very related to that, but maybe a little bit more specific.
Okay.
So, and before I answer your question, I wanted to clarify the difference between influence and negotiation.
Perfect.
And maybe some of the people who watch that, maybe they also want to understand what is the difference between negotiation and influence, why people actually sometimes sometimes interchange those concepts, right? And use them sparingly. So, influence essentially is when you actually emote someone to do something that they wouldn't do if you wouldn't ask.
I see.
And I think that definition comes from the ancient Greeks, because there was Aristotle and other philosophers. So that is influence. Influence is to make somebody do something that they wouldn't do otherwise if you wouldn't ask.
Yes.
So negotiation is a little bit different. Negotiation is about making an effort to come to an agreement between two or more people. So it actually requires several people in case or in the condition that the other party, or all the people in that agreement have a right to say no and walk away. So they have a right to veto and say there's no agreement, and that defines the freedom of that.
Yes.
So oftentimes people mix up negotiation with coercing someone to do something.
Yes.
And coercing somebody to do something has nothing to do with negotiation. It's about power and leverage and stuff like that.
And stressing people out.
Exactly. It's stressing people out, and also they don't give them options. They actually have to do what you tell them, and it has nothing to do with negotiation. Negotiation is when you talk to free people, when they have full control in their life. That's why I think this was a famous definition of Nelson Mandela, who said, or maybe I'm wrong about name, but I heard from some very important person said that slaves cannot get into contract. They can't negotiate because they don't control their life. They cannot really make any contract. They can't agree about anything because they have no control. So negotiation is about freedom.
That's awesome. You have to have freedom in order to be able to negotiate.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So, getting back to your question about the Dr. Cialdini, the godfather of influence, and the conference, Influence Amplified. So it was a wonderful conference for 2 days, this Friday and Saturday, and all the founding members, or most of the founding members, came to see Dr. Cialdini and his executive team speaking. There were a lot of speakers, and also some business people came, and the leadership team came, and Dr. Cialdini, his wife, was there.
Yes.
They were there, and also their granddaughter as well. And there were a lot of insightful presentations, as well as a lot of networking. And in the end, Joe Polish, the founder of the Genius Network, he also visited and congratulated Dr. Cialdini with 40th anniversary of the book Influence.
Wow. Yeah. So I noticed that because I have the book, that there's one version and then there's another one that is a newer version. So I have the newer one. So I'm excited about that. I've been reading it. So what got you into wanting to learn about influence?
Oh, that's a very good question. And it's a long story, but I will try to make it short as possible. So I'm an immigrant, and I immigrated in 2006, and I'm a proud citizen of the United States from 2017. And the culture in Russia is a little bit different. There are more assertive people. There are people who are kind of looking for this leverage and kind of trying to, push you into the situation when you have to choose their way, not your way. And you can find this here as well in the United States. But on the overall culture in the United States are more mature. People respect freedom and they respect relationships. And when I was in Russia, I didn't even have a concept of rapport. I didn't know what rapport is. So when I came here, I had to learn that. And I had to learn a lot about the culture here. I had to change that. So this is pretty much what I had to go through in order to find my way up to management. And I was a manager in Russia. It actually didn't work for me. I was demoted. And I was demoted to the technical position and the business analyst. And then I came here. I was a liaison between business and technical. But then I had to find a way to management. In order to manage and work with people, you have to be really at a certain level of communication. You need to find a nice and respectful way to collaborate with people, engage them, and building rapport is a part of it. So influence essentially is a number one leadership skill, because what leader can do, whether use authority and push people into what they want, and that is not really an influence in negotiation. This is more of a coercion people. So, but this doesn't work. It's not sustainable. Like you cannot look away and find out that your people do not really do what you say because you're not watching them. So you need to build culture. You need to build purpose. You need to motivate people. You need to influence them to do what they wouldn't do, if you didn't ask.
That's an interesting point. I think many times we've seen people that are put into leadership positions without getting the proper training, and they're put in this position, and they find that they're not respected, they're not listened to. So this influence is something that's really important.
Yeah.
So that you can have a team that's working together.
Absolutely, Angelica, that's a very good point, because influence is a way to align purposes, essentially, and also build relationships. And at the conference, Dr. Cialdini put a lot of emphasis on ethical aspect of that we need to use the ethical, those principles ethically, and finding the available resources that are there that we can use and that we don't use because we don't see them.
Yes.
Right. I will give you one example.
Okay.
There was a research on websites, like A/B tests on 26 different parameters, and there was a research on about 6,000 websites.
Okay.
And then what we're trying to figure out is what are the biggest factors defining the conversion of visitors into the customers on the website. Pretty important, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
In order to do that, they did A/B tests, and they figured out, they put the parameters related to whether a site have a search function or the order of information presented there, and also they tested the Cialdini principles such as reciprocity, liking, unity, social proof, and by the way, most of the parameters that are related to the Cialdini principles, they are winners. And for example, for reciprocity and for liking, it was about putting a welcome statement, a warm welcome statement on a website in handwriting, saying, "We are welcome you here on our website. It's such a pleasure and delight that you came over to see what we're doing here in our services. We will be delighted to serve you." And that simple statement converted significantly.
Wow.
Yeah.
They felt welcome.
Yeah, and this is actually available for free. You don't actually need to fake anything because you're really delighted to serve people.
It's true.
That's your business. Why don't you tell about this? This is about knowing the principles and applying them when they're available.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. I think that there's a lot of tools out there that we don't know about, and it's good to know people like you so you could share with us. Okay, so back to the question about leadership and somebody that's not getting results from being a leader, and they have a team that has to do tasks, right? And nobody's listening to this leader. How does negotiation come into play with something like that, or influence?
That's a very good question, Angelica, because there are many leaders who are very busy, extremely busy.
Yes.
They don't have time to ask people 100 times, or they expect action. They don't have time to, babysit people and play kindergarten or whatever.
Call them up.
Right.
What are you doing right now? Where are you? The micromanage, that would really, people don't like that either.
Yeah, it's very difficult and it's very hard, and you cannot really scale that. So it's a fast-paced environment, and leaders need that.
They're doing a lot.
Support. They need that alignment, and they rely on this. They want people who would be kind of acting on a small hint of what needs to be done.
Yes.
So people need to understand what to do essentially, and if the team doesn't know, what leader wants or doesn't do what leader wants, I think in most cases it is rooted in the lack of relationship that is built. And if you try to influence people without building relationships, you may actually find yourself that it backfires on you. You might find yourself isolated. You might find yourself that you're a leader who nobody wants to follow, because you will try to do things quickly, and the shortcut here is to apply your authority, apply your power, and if you
power over,
if power over, and you're start making more decisions, you start making more direct, being more directive, start more micromanagement, and then you find yourself that it's not sustainable. You cannot do this because it's not your role, right?
Yeah.
So I think for leaders who kind of losing the team, I would suggest to start from building relationships with the team, building rapport, and on that basis, the influence could be exercised.
Nice.
Yeah. On that basis only. If there is no respect in the team, if there is no respect between the leader, and the respect is mutual, that means the leader has to respect the teams, and the leader needs to expect the respect back as well. So establishing the culture of respect, it's both important for negotiation and influence and leadership.
Yes.
So respect first. But what is further, what is beyond respect? Beyond respect is liking.
Yes.
So liking, essentially, if you think about the continuum of feelings, on the far left it's hatred, on the far right is love.
Yes.
Respect is right in the middle. Respect is like a norm that you don't need to like people, but you respect them. And respect is about regard. It's come from the Latin regard. So if I respect your boundaries, if I respect your feelings and I respect your goals, I don't need to collaborate with you. You can go your way, I can go my way.
Yes.
But it is safe for you to be around me, right? But if I start to like what you do, I start to like your goals, I start to like your ideas, then we can align and we can collaborate, and you will feel safe. Why you feel safe? Because you know that if I like you, I also respect you. Because I wouldn't actually like you if I disrespect you. It will be strange.
Yes.
It will be a very strange relationship. So,
yes.
First of all, if you look at the relationships and you see abusive relationships, that means there is no respect and no liking. It's unsafe. And when the relationship is unsafe, the first thing you think is how to get out of it.
Yes, absolutely. So this is interesting. I love this conversation. So how would a person build the relationship so that they can be respected?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of simple, but it's also complicated because there are many things to consider, and all of us have different system of values. All of us have our own identity and our perceptions, habits, feeling of personal distance, and other things. You need to actually make a lot of agreements with people about that. So this is where you need to negotiate.
Yes.
For example, you need to negotiate boundaries. Will you allow your boss to check on you every day or not? Will your boss allow you to go without report for a week? You actually need to agree about this because it may consider disrespectful.
Yes.
And
that's a good point, because I think sometimes a boss might want certain things, right?
Yeah.
But they don't explain what they want, right? Much of what happens in relationships when people get married, they just say, well, we're just going to get married and everything's going to be happy ever after, but they don't talk about what they expect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a good, I like that you mentioned that.
Yeah, being a good negotiator is about finding disagreements and making agreements. Finding those friction points and say, well, let's talk about that. And let's talk about this respectfully and come to a certain agreement of how do we roll forward. And negotiation is about resolving the situation when we have different opinions, and we need to come to a certain agreement so we can continue to collaborate respectfully, and hopefully with some liking and some and with the trust, of course. So trust comes with experience and the perception of what happens when we start sharing something personal, sharing something that is important for us, that the other person may influence and another person may use in a certain way that is not intended. So from this perspective, negotiating those boundaries actually is building trust. Because we agree, like if I tell you information about my checking account, you will not be taking money out of there without my permission, because you're an agent, you're my agent to make business for me, but you are not authorized to actually use the funds in your personal, that's about trust.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And everything around here, all our life is based on trust. We cannot drink a cup of coffee without trust. Because if you don't know what's inside the coffee, we wouldn't drink it. It's trust to the company that produces that, but trust to people who are actually responsible and putting the coffee of best quality.
Yeah, that's so true. We trust everybody who's making our food and serving our coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. We cannot cross the road without trust.
Yes.
Because if you start crossing the road and somebody hit us with a car, that wouldn't be safe, right?
Yeah.
We trust the drivers that they will be stay in their lane.
That's why I run across the street. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Interesting conversation. Yes, I love it. So those are a few things to build the trust: is talk about the boundaries and agreements.
Yep.
I like
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
So what did Paul say? Do you remember something that Paul mentioned? The genius. He's with the genius.
Joe Polish.
John Polish. Yeah.
Joe
Polish.
Yeah, Joe Polish.
Oh, I'm doing a dyslexia on the name. So did he have a presentation, or did you just see him during networking?
Well, Joe Polish was there to celebrate Dr. Cialdini's 40th anniversary of his book.
Wow.
Yeah, so the book was written 40 years ago, and this year was celebrated. And Joe Polish came to stage to interview Dr. Cialdini, ask him certain questions. Well, Joe Polish has some introduction on the video about what he does and what how he built the Genius Network and what is his purpose. Though he didn't really make a presentation, he was there to celebrate Dr. Cialdini's event and success.
Nice. He didn't want to take all of the stage. That was Cialdini's time.
Yeah, and there were many people from the Genius Network came to the events to as followers of Joe, and they joined the event because Joe is actually a good friend of Dr. Cialdini, and he was invited personally by Dr. Cialdini to join, and many of his members knew that he's going, so they joined too.
That's nice. See, that's when you have a network like that, they support you, and that's how we met. We met through a network on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
And in that network you talk about negotiation and also influence. So you want to talk a little bit about your network and what you do there?
For me, essentially, networking is about meeting wonderful people like yourself, Angelica, and I was amazed by your ability to pull people together and organize those wonderful conversations, very personable and very thoughtful, where everybody have a room to speak and express themselves. And I really appreciate your ability to find some wisdom in every speaker who comes, and your questions and your engagement and your encouragement for them to come and talk about this topic that you have at hand. And I joined a few of your audio rooms, and the recent one was about AI. It was an amazing event, and so many people wanted to speak there.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm really excited about doing an audio event with you as well. Yeah, that would be great, and also a live video event. I think that would be wonderful. We're doing one right now, but it's not live. Well, right now it's live, but
absolutely. Yeah, that would be great. And Angelica, I'm wondering what is driving you in what you do, and what is driving you in putting together those events and talking to people, organizing the discussions. What purpose do you find that would give you, the perspective for a few years ahead? How do you see that, growing and helping the community?
I see it helping people connect with others, because LinkedIn is a great place to connect and meet people of like mind that want to help you out, like how we met, right? We're helping each other out, so to speak. And that's what I love about those audio rooms. I feel like people want to talk about a question that they might have, and they might not have somebody that they could talk to. For example, yesterday's was about AI. They might go on the computer and look up the information, but it's not the same as having somebody that's an expert that they could have a conversation with and ask them a question about it. So I like to have people there that are experts that could give value that people need. And I just love being able to help people, business people in the community or all over the world. And it really makes me happy when I hear people say that they got value from the audio room because they were able to apply that to their business. So that's a great feeling for me to be able to help others. So those are some of the things that the reason why I do it. I love people, So that's another one. So meeting people on LinkedIn is fun. I met Dr. Constance, and we did a video as well. But I think it's just a wonderful way to connect with others and help in any way that we can.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it is fulfilling for you, finally fulfilling
Yes.
to be a facilitator, to be a, a champion of collaboration between people who really want to speak, who have um, gained a significant knowledge and wisdom in different areas, and they would like to share their practical advice and tips on how to actually make this planet better and how
Exactly.
to help others. And maybe maybe this information is everywhere, but it could be scattered around so those people actually can answer the questions live. So if people come in and they ask those experts that you invite about their challenges, they can answer on the spot. And you find it exciting that you could facilitate, you can organize that and welcome people to come over and learn about all of this AI and other technologies, whatever topic that there is that is interesting.
Well, another thing that I love about it is that the host or the guest hosts, they get an opportunity to communicate with people. They get an opportunity for people to see how they communicate.
Yeah.
And so that's a good time for them to build relationships with people, and people, that's when they decide, do I want to build a relationship with this person? Can I trust them? And I think many of them find that they want to do business with that person because they see how we speak to each other and how they speak to everybody else. So that's another way. That's another thing that I like, that they people that have come on my program have grown their following because of being on the audio.
Yeah, I really like it, and I think that the way you set up the conversation is very conducive to building those great relationships. And I think, like, what I experience in when I come to your audio rooms, it's very warm, it's very helpful, it's very welcoming, and um, sincerely, I would recommend anyone joining Angelica's audio rooms.
Thank you.
Because there you can find many people who would be interested to hear what you have to say in your expertise, share your expertise, and also connect with you. And when I join your audio rooms, just as a listener, you always call me out and say, like, "Oh, Vlad, by the way, if you want to know about negotiation, connect with Vlad," and you do that for everybody else. I mean, this is a fantastic. This really, I appreciate your um, you know uh, your way of in how to say the introducing people who come into you. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's important to let others know what they do, what you're doing, or what others are doing, because sometimes it's hard for us to talk about ourselves,
Yeah.
and we don't want to sound like we're bragging. It's always nice when somebody else brags about you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
And you're a very good host.
Thank you.
When you introduce people, and by the way, it has to do with Cialdini principles.
Oh, okay.
It has to do with the principle of authority.
Okay.
And it was one company, and I think in England, and they worked with the real estate.
Okay.
And they worked with real estate in different areas of London. And when the client would call, the receptionist would answer the phone and say, "Are you calling about the commercial real estate or residential?" And I say, "Commercial." "Are you talking about this area of London or that area of London?" And they tell, and they say, "Okay, well, let me connect you with Matt." And they would connect with Matt and talk. Or let me connect you with Sue, and they would connect with Sue. And what the Cialdini Institute suggested them to do, instead of, I mean, they did everything right. After they asked the question about commercial or residential in which area of London, instead of just saying, let me connect it to Mike, they need to add something. It's called a small big, a small change leading to big result. Okay? They started to say this, let me connect it to Mike. Mike is the best expert in the commercial real estate in that area of London.
Nice.
Or let me connect it to Sue. Sue is a guru in residential real estate in this area of London. That increased the customer base 15.5%.
Wow. I could see it. I could see why. Definitely.
This is amazing. Like just adding a few words adds so much authority. And actually, it wasn't not a lie. Matt and Sue, I mean, proverbial Matt and Sue, were really experts. It was true. It was ethical. It was just not mentioned. So when you mention people and you introducing them to people, you're doing a huge favor because you're adding them authority.
Yes, absolutely. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So this is probably what you know, the of your audience should know, that some of the principles that Angelica already uses from Cialdini Institute and successfully, and attracting a lot of business, attracting a lot of people who wants to participate and share their wisdom on the podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah. You're welcome to Angelica's. She's an expert host.
Thank you.
And building collaboration between business people.
Thank you so much. Well, I have to say that you are also an expert when it comes to influence and when it comes to negotiating. So make sure that you reach out to my friend here, Vladimir Bushin.
Well, I'll be glad to help.
Yes.
I'll be glad to help.
Yes.
And, thank you so much, Angelica, for this wonderful time.
Thank you.
This was a really great conversation, and I hope that we can do a little bit more later when I'm in San Diego.
Exactly. I would love to. Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.